So Nutex Health was supposed to release their earnings last Thursday, and I made a video last week on why I thought it was a great buy ahead of earnings and why I thought that the stock was going to go much higher. And you can tell by the chart, it did end up running up a pretty good amount all the way to around 110 from around the 85 levels that going into earnings last week, but they never actually ended up releasing their earnings. They ended up having to delay them because of some accounting issues with the accounting and that they just couldn't get them out in time. So the stock saw a pretty big hit. And, you know, we're still, it's not a huge deal because we're still above the level we were at this same time last week, but it kind of hurts obviously to have it go from 110 to lows of 85 and then kind of rebound a little bit. But the thing that's a little bit different with this delay is usually you just have a delay and then they'd announce earnings shortly after and you kind of be still unsure of what's going to happen, is that NUTX actually kind of teased some of its results when they were announcing the delay. And that makes this a very interesting kind of scenario going into next week, in that the stock took a huge hit because it delayed their earnings, but they still have the earnings out. It's just that it kind of had to drop because there was no official call, there was no official report, so you can't be making those speculative moves. And shorts just kind of had their way with the kind of low volume that came with the delay. So again, the interesting thing is that they actually announced some of the results, and the results were amazing. And I think that kind of puts us in an interesting spot where I think it is an amazing buy, even better buy than it was last week. You get it at an even better price of 92 versus 111, and you even take away that risk of not knowing what's going to happen with the earnings, because they did announce some of the results and these might change a little bit, but they said that they're expecting them not to change. These are the kind of results that they expect not to change at all, even after the accounting changes. So you can see they announced their revenue was 244 million for the quarter, and that's up 220% year over year, which is just amazing. And they also announced their gross profit, not net income. That's probably going to be announced. That'll definitely be announced when they officially announce earnings, which is expected to be announced after a 5-day grace period. So they were supposed to be announced Thursday, so 5 days after would be Tuesday after the market closes. So most likely will be announced Tuesday after the market closes, maybe a little earlier, but not a huge wait. But for now, you're left with these results. And gross profits were really good as well, 125 million, around 51% of revenue, which is great margins. The visits were up, and you can see, I mean, just look at this, $97 million in cash, which is great for a company of its size, relatively small, so only $515 million in market cap. And you look at the revenues, 244 million, that's much better than the 212 million they announced last quarter. So you're seeing growth there quarter over quarter. And they had this really, really solid quarter. Didn't top those that quarter yet, but very close. And then gross profits, you see here, much better. It was 125 million, and they topped the 118 from last quarter. So much better than last quarter, beat expectations with their results. And they haven't even officially announced earnings yet. So you currently have the stock price at around $93, and it really belongs above 200. I mean, they're making probably going to make close to, for the half year, they made 455 million, probably going to make more than 900 million over the span of the year. And they're only a $516 million market cap. So you can kind of just see how undervalued that is. They're not even making, their market cap isn't even what they make in sales and revenue. So, I mean, just some insane stuff on how undervalued this is. Only a 9 price to earnings ratio. It's just an amazing buy. I don't really see a world where this thing doesn't explode after they officially announce earnings. If for some reason they don't, I have no idea why that would be. Then this definitely is an amazing long-term buy where you can kind of maybe wait for the market to kind of catch up with where this company and stock is going. And I think it's going in amazing places. And on top of the results, they also announced a share buyback program of 25 million. And I've talked about in the past how the reason they dropped from the 170 levels all the way down to around the 115 levels is because of a potential dilution for them to be able to issue more shares to employees, sorry. And that's why the stock dropped all from 170, which were where it was at after last earnings here, to around 115. And this share buyback is going to basically try to offset that dilution. And so, that alone should bring this thing back to 170, which is where it was at last earnings, which they already beat. But instead, it's trading at around half a discount. So this is definitely my favorite pick going into the next week. They're probably going to announce earnings Tuesday after the market closes. They'll probably specify that Monday morning what the exact date is, but the 5-day grace period gives them till then. I mean, the risk basically goes out the window. It really just comes down to how does the market interpret the results. It should be very, very good. They should see that the dilution is basically out the window, and the results are continuing to get better year over year and quarter over quarter. And they belong above this 170, 180 mark that they were at after last quarter, which they beat the results of. So this is amazing stuff coming out of NUTX. Obviously, a little bit of a short-term hurdle, not a huge deal, still up over the span of the week, but it just offers, I think, an amazing buying opportunity of where this thing's going to bounce back amazingly this week, as long as there's no more delays, which would really suck. I don't know why there would be another delay, but this is definitely set up to be one of the better picks of the week. And that's why I'm especially excited to see really how the market reacts to this pick, because they already announced the results and they were amazing. So let me know what you think in the comments. Hoping for the best with NUTX this week. And if you like the videos, please subscribe. And yeah, see you next week.